Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today you get to decide where you'll be. Will you be in the world of kaleidoscopes, trying to match elements on the corners and create fractals or sequence fractals in the middle of the tiles? Or will you be in space, matching constellations or sequencing galaxies? Four Corners is a living puzzle that has two versions, both with identical gameplay, Kaleidoscope or Galaxy. It's a tile laying game for 1 to 6 players. It takes 20 to 40 minutes to play, is for ages 8 and up, and published by Calliopie Games. Now it's on Kickstarter right now, so I'm going to show you how the game works, and I'll see you on the other side. This is a Kickstarter preview, so all the art and components you see here are prototypes, they're not final. To see all the most up-to-date art and components, check the Kickstarter link in the description of this video. Now what you see here is the Kaleidoscope version, and the game comes with a 6x6 board. Now, over the course of the game, players are going to be playing tiles onto this board. At the beginning of the game, there's only one tile in one of these 4 center areas. I've set it up as if we've already taken a few turns, so let's talk about what you're trying to do. Now at the beginning of the game, each player is going to get 3 gold cards. Now these are secret to other players, but I've got them on the table so you can see them, and these are showing you fractals of kaleidoscopes. And if you're able to get all these 3 done before anyone else, you'll win. Now it's basically a race to get that done. However, if you don't like your gold cards or things on the board change, you'll have the option of swapping those out for a different one. We'll talk more about that in just a moment, but it's a race to get your 3 gold cards completed first. Each player is also going to get 3 tiles. Now these are kept secret from other players as well, but these are going to be ones you're going to be placing onto the board. Turns go clockwise. On your turn, you can do one of 3 things. One of the 3 things you can do is place a tile. Now, when you place a tile, you could place it in an empty spot, but that spot has to be somewhere next to a tile, either up, down, left, right, or diagonally. I couldn't put one way out here, for example. But I might want to do something like this, and when you place it, you can orient it in any way that you want. Now, remember, you're trying to go for your goals. Now, one of the things is, this was one of my secret goals. You can see this center here of, it's actually 4 different tiles, is almost created this fractal from these 4 corners, hence the name of the game. If I'm able to get another one there, I'm going to be able to complete that goal, but other players are going to be doing things and moving tiles, so let me show you what some of the other things you can do on your turn is. So after I've basically placed a tile, I would just draw back up so I have 3 in my hand. It'd be the next player's turn. Now a little bit more in placement. When you place a tile, one of the elements in the corner must match something that's next to it. At least one. So in this case, we match this, we're good. This one also matched, but you only need one to match another tile that's next to it to place it. Or the center fractal could match. So if none of these elements matched, if this matched anything that was next to it, that's also a legal placement. So there are some rules as to where you can place. Now let's say it's the next player's turn. When placing a tile, you don't have to place in one of these empty spots. You can replace a tile. When doing so, you remove the tile and they will place a tile here. Now keep in mind, a couple of things, at least one element has to match, or in this case, you could do something like this, and because this matches here, that's a legal placement, but maybe they're actually working on this. And maybe they thought, well, the other player's working on this, let me kind of screw them up and kind of break that up. Well, I'm working on this, and maybe I'm working on this, because we're going to tell you how these sort of score a little bit in just a moment, but you're trying to get sequences of these large fractals in the center, or all 4 corners of the same element together. Now on your turn when you play a tile, it might have a special action. Like this one says, rotate 180 degrees. So you can take any tile and do that. So maybe they take this tile and they will rotate it 180 degrees like that. And now look at this, they got 3 of these. Maybe there's another player trying to get this to line up again. Another special action tile type is this, and this allows you to swap any 2 tiles. You must keep their same orientation, but you can swap them, and you can do that twice. Then you discard the tile and draw a new one. Swapped tiles still need to match an adjacent tile's center fractal, or at least one corner element. Now so far we've only talked about placing a tile, which is one of the possibilities on your turn. Another one, remember you're only doing one thing per turn, is to manipulate 1 or 2 tiles. Now to manipulate a tile, you can rotate it 90 degrees in any direction, and you could do that to 2 different tiles. A different thing you could do when you're manipulating it is you could take any 2 tiles and swap them with one another, keeping the orientation the same. Now, you can only complete 4 corners like this into one fractal like that if you have the gold card for it. This is the gold card. I've got this, and basically I get to score this on 1/3 of the way to winning the game. Now, after the player finished this, they will need to turn each tile 90 degrees in either direction. They get to decide. We could have done this instead. Take this one, and we're going to swap it with this one, keeping the orientation the same. Now, when you do this using this action, you have to make sure that either the center fractal is matching at least one adjacent, or one of the elements. Like this one got swapped, but this element matched, and this matched this, so that's okay. Now, what's the other way to score? Let's say someone took the action to manipulate tiles, and they're going to swap. Let's say they swap these two. Remember, you got to keep them in the same orientation, like this. Now remember, this has to at least match, or one of the elements. This one has an element that matches, so it's okay. But now we have 4 center fractals that are in a line, uninterrupted, that match. So if that player had this goal card, they would be able to then show it and show that they did it. Now remember, you can only create one of these sequences if you do have the goal card in order to allow that to happen. Now let's say the board looked like this when this was created. The next 2 players, when you make a sequence like this, must, for their turn, take a tile off the top of the deck and replace one of the ones that was part of that sequence with the tile. However, sometimes, like this, say they replace this, and they do this, and let's say they had this goal card, they can still score a goal on that turn. So that's the next 2 players after the one that did that sequence would have to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, once you create a 4 corners fractal, they have to spin each one of these 4 90 degrees in any direction. So far we talked about 2 of the 3 actions you can take. Remember, you're only taking 1 on your turn, which is placing a tile, manipulating tiles. The last one is taking an additional goal card. So you can take this, you look at all the ones that are in your hand, and you'll discard one that you don't want. That way you still have the same amount. So that's trying to get a new goal if you feel like the ones that you have are going to hinder you from winning. Now you might have 2 goals of the same type, but both of these have to be fulfilled separately. So you can't do it once and score both of these goal cards, for example. That's pretty much how you play. The first one to get 3 goals done first wins. You can play this in a team game, 4 or 6 players. Let's say you're playing 4 players. Each teammate would sit alternating. So it'd be like team 1, team 2, team 1, team 2. Now, when you draw goal cards at the beginning of the game, one of the players is going to hold the goal card. Let's say they have this one. The other player of that team would go through the deck and find an additional one that matched it. So basically just that one of them is getting the randomized versions, the other one's going through the deck and getting that, so that both players always can see easily which goals they're going for. And if you're playing 6 players, just alternating turns, teams 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, same thing. First team to get 3 goals first wins. There is a solo mode. You just use one of the 3x3 boards. You'll take 10 tiles. One of them goes in the center. You got 4 face-up goals, 1 face-down goal. On your turn, you take the top tile and you place it with normal placement rules. But then you may, if you want to, rotate any 2 tiles 90 degrees in either direction. You could also replace a tile instead of placing it in an open spot. Now remember, you only have 10 total tiles. That's already one of them. And you're trying to complete these 4 goals. And if you do that, then you flip this one over and see what your 5th goal is. And you're trying to complete 4 or 5 of the goals in order to win. And there's different little rankings that it gives you in the rulebook as well. Well, there you have 4 corners, and as I showed in the overview, it's a family tile laying game that can be played individually, in teams, or solo. Now, if you'd like to see the most up-to-date art and components and the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me right in the description of this video. Now, that's going to take you directly to the Kickstarter project page, and I'm sure that Calliopie Games would love your support.